All right, here we go. Last episode, we were talking about divorce. This episode, we're going to talk about being child free. And we bring those up on the No BS Wealth podcast because that reaches a different demographic in the world than we're typically used to. The media loves to go about the normal business owner or the normal married couple with two kids and, the American dream, if you will. But today, we're going to go the child free route. We're going to bring that into order. And no better way than with Jay Zigmont. I mean, he is the child-free planner. He is who has created all of this, and I'm very excited to ask him a bunch of fun questions, but also get to know his story and why this part of our industry or our market, if you will, is so important to him. So without further ado, sir, how are you doing?
Good. It's kind of funny that I'm the child free guy here. And I always get it. Like, I'm in the financial world, I'm the child free. When I was at a conference this weekend for childless folks, and I was just the money guy there. It's like the different identities you get depending on which audience you're in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, take us down your journey real quick of where you went, how you got started, and then how you ended up being the child-free guy in some cases and the money guy in others.
Yeah. So I am actually one of those weird people that career changer to finance. So I come out of healthcare and academia. My background in PhD is actually adult learning. I come out of kind of the coaching world. And after you do a whole bunch of coaching, you realize people are more willing to pay for financial coaching than anything else. But then you eventually become a CFP and work through that. And when I was becoming a CFP, the interesting thing to me was there was never once a mention of the concept of being child free. It's there, it just doesn't exist. And like there's pre-kids, post-kids, empty nest, but the choice when I say child free means you don't have kids ever, just doesn't exist. And my wife and I are child free, and I started asking the question like, well, how weird are we? We are weird. I mean, like, two PhDs, we sit around at night talking about research studies. We're kind of a little weird, but like, how weird are we for being child free? And come to find out, I actually found a Reddit group. There's about 1.5 million folks in there in the child free subreddit. That's a Reddit, so Reddit's its own cesspool sometimes, but there's a bunch. And it turns out that about 25% of the US is child free or permanently childless. So like we're not a small group, but I had no clue that a quarter of the US would be there.
No, not at all. A quarter? Like that's a pretty big number. Like a
Yeah.
pretty large number.
That number actually is based on a study out of Michigan. They looked at adults over 18. In the same study, they found that just about 8% were the LGBTQ plus community. So there's a bunch of overlap between the LGBTQ plus and child free, but we're 3 times the size of that community, and nobody would guess that.
No, not 0% of people would. That's crazy. So after you figure this out, right? And being in academia and being nerds as you are, which is perfectly fine. How and why did you just start attacking it? Obviously the why is there, but how did you still start going about it? Because there's not that many statistics out there.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, in the financial literature, there's nothing. So like when you go like, hey, I want to start a firm, and everybody's talking about what niche you want to serve, what group, and we can have a separate discussion of really can be 25% of the US be your own niche, but whatever. I started researching it, and going back to Reddit, I actually put an ad out. I said, share with me what your life is like as a child-free person or child-free wealth. And it was actually flagged as hate speech just for even asking about being child-free. Hate directed at you. I'm like, oh boy, what am I getting myself into? Right. And I started researching it, and I found that it changes just about everything about your life and finances. Yet all like our software, all our financial planning process, everything has built in there. We have a Child for Wealth podcast. My co-host there, she's finishing her CFP now. We've been doing a series on what's taught in the CFP and what changes for child-free folks. And it's almost everything. Like even like the financial planning process, the core process changes. And once you start figuring that out, you go, there's a big problem. Now, here's the thing. For anybody that's ever started a business, you find something like nobody's doing. The first question is like, should I do that? Because if nobody's doing it, there might be a reason why they're not doing it.
Right, absolutely.
And it's worked out well for me, but it's like, man, do I really want to like create something that doesn't exist? Our chief marketing officer calls it, we're doing category creation. We're creating something that just it's not there. And when you step that far out, you're worried you might just be stepping off a cliff.
Which is that feeling now to a degree at Black Mammoth. We're doing more of the modern family office perspective, which is different, is not near 25% like you or stepping off a cliff, but I get that feeling of when you're out there in this wilderness by yourself, and in theory, that everyone judges you and comes at you from different perspectives. So, as the business owner piece of you, how do you go through that every day? On OBS Wealth Podcast, we get a lot of business owners on there. So, I want to get to your emotional side of how do you go through being essentially alone in this vast world, doing what you're doing, and how do you keep going every day?
Yeah, I think the bonus was, for me at least, my passion is in helping others. So I follow the Zig Ziglar quote: "You can have everything life you want if you help enough other people get what they want." And I'm like, okay, what I really see the child free group as is a underserved minority group. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm the straight white male here talking about being a minority, but like that actually is like part of my identity and part of where it fits. And when you realize that group is getting mistreated, it gets you going. So I did research on this and I asked folks, child free folks, said, what's it been like working with financial planner? Have you worked with one, all that? And they said, it's been terrible. They're like, I go to a financial planner, they're like, oh, you'll change your mind. Or they just ignore me, or they make comments about it. And like, you start realizing these are my people that are being mistreated. Now, from a business standpoint, that's a huge opportunity and a huge risk. Okay. When nobody else is doing it, there might be a reason. And I actually talked to somebody who tried to do a child-free financial planning for a little bit and had to close his firm because he got like ostracized in the church and like run out in the community and, all the judgments. I mean, like, I'll give you an example. I went to buy some software for my company, financial software, meeting with the folks. I like their software. They said, okay, who do you serve? I say, oh, I serve child-free folks. They go, oh, so you hate kids. And I'm like, what? And this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I was at another conference and the person sat up at the front of the conference and said, quote, working with people without kids is the worst. And I'm like, could you imagine if he had said like working with women is the worst, or,
Right.
like any other group? No. So it's one of those things where you have to figure out how to balance. Okay, I know who I want to serve. I know how I want to serve them. I know how I want to reach them. But you also have to get past the haters. And I'll tell you, one of the first people I had to hire was somebody to help me with social media because I just can't do it. The people on social media that, I get more people praying for my soul and, whatever. My favorite social media, on August 1st, International Child Free Day, and we sponsored a billboard in Times Square to celebrate what Child Free Day is. And on social media, somebody posted that we are a global psyop to depopulate the world. And I'm like, yep, that's what I get every morning. I'm like, how do I depopulate the world? Like,
Oh my Lord.
and somebody explained it to me this way. So I like video games and gaming. And they said, when you're in video games, you're going in the right direction because you start running into enemies. I was like, huh. This is the same with your business. You start running into enemies, you're going in the right direction. I was like, you're probably right. But like, that doesn't make it feel better.
Right. This still sucks. Like I don't enjoy this feeling. I like when we had talked before, that blew my mind that people would treat people that way. Well, let me back up. It blew my mind that because you don't have kids is the trigger. Not that people are disgusting and would attack someone for anything, but the fact that it's child free, like that is such a fundamental, like, who cares? They're still humans and it's still okay. But so you figured this out. You've launched a business. You've done a ton of things, and we'll talk about your book later. But like, okay, cool. But now, since it's totally different in the process, and the planning process, and everything that you do, how did you really attack that side of it? Because there's nothing that I've ever seen that says, "Ooh, this is how the planning goes," or "These are the stats." So, where did you start with that?
Yeah, the way I look at it is my company as a whole is a learning company that does financial planning. So we're always helping our clients to learn. We're always learning because there's nothing. There's no playbook. I mean, if you look at our process now versus where it was 2-3 years ago, completely different because we had no clue. Like, okay, we see these things. They're different. Like the software, great example. We use Right Capital as our software. Just recently, they started allowing so that you could have couples that are not married. Well, 32.1% of child-free folks will never marry versus 2.5% of parents. So like, huge thing. How do we get software to go, okay, you can be in a couple and not married? Like basic things. And what we found is the only way to help child-free folks who often like I get like they change their goals like every week. I mean, I swear, like, like, oh hey, I'm moving to another country. I'm doing this. Like, I'm like, all right, cool. Where are we going to say? Like, if you want a linear process, not it. But the only way to help them is to help them learn about their money, learn about the process, work it through. And then we've been trial and error. I mean, like going, yep, that didn't work. Yep, that worked. I mean, and the hard part of that is most financial planning. So if you take a parent's financial plan, their financial plans, two different parents are actually not that far apart. The numbers are different, but the actual like trajectory, the standards life script, you talk about American Dream, like there's a standard process. You go to school, you get married, you have kids, you work, you retire, you pass the money. Like it's a pretty linear process. What happens when your clients don't follow that? For example, child-free folks want to die with zero. Not everybody, but 95+%. Well, how do you build a financial plan that wants them to die with zero when everything, like Monte Carlo, is all about the chance you don't run out of money? Like we got to invert, and it starts changing it. And what you learn as a business owner in that is if you're going to serve a population where you don't have the book, you don't have, like literally I'm writing it as we go along, you have to have that innovation, that agility, that be able to go, all right, we got to take a hard right turn. And the only way you can do that is by, in my mind, building a learning infrastructure where we're constantly learning, constantly growing. Like after every single client meeting, we have a debrief. What worked, what didn't, what would you do differently next time? We have it built into our process because we're literally building the plane while we're flying it. We just hired another planner on, and I explained, hey, we got a great group we serve, great environment. But I'm going to tell you right now, our process keeps changing because we're building it. We're trying to figure out how to do this. And it's not like, you go work at Fidelity, like there's a very scripted, you follow this process. I'm not saying anything wrong with Fidelity. I'm just saying that's just the structure where we're like, all right, so our client came with something new and we don't have a clue and I don't know what to do with it. I have somebody like, hey, I want to start a nonprofit. I want to do this. I want to move to another. I'm like, all right, let's figure this out.
As a business owner, let's figure it out is probably a sentence we should all say every day, because I believe that innovation is really what allows you to do those certain things, like learning all of those processes, learning exactly how to start a nonprofit, what goes into that. I believe as financial planners, that's our duty. Like our duty is to figure all these things out and learn with them and adjust. And ultimately, and I'll let you answer this, how do clients feel about that, right? How do they feel about, there's not like a standardized process, right? You're creating it, but how do they feel that you're going to go figure it out for them and with them on their journey?
So we call what we do ongoing financial planning. So we intentionally tell them, hey, we're not going to be able to give you all the answers. And I've had some good conversations with some of my staff, especially new CFPs. They want to have the answer. If I'm sitting in front of a client, I have to have the answer. I got a PhD, MBA, CFP. I got a whole bunch of letters. I have no problem going to a client and go, I don't know. I'm going to go look that up and I'll get back to you. And when I do that with clients, every time they appreciate it. I had somebody come up with a tax issue the other day, and it was something, with foreign tax and this and the other. I'm like, yep, I don't know. I said, I know there's an issue. I'm going to go reach out to some of my colleagues. We're going to have a conversation. I'll get back to you with a recommendation. They were so happy about that because you don't have to have all the answers. You have to be able to work with them. And if you're transparent, I believe the way to make money accessible is humor, humility, and vulnerability and transparency. Like just kind of like, I make mistakes, you make mistakes. I don't know, you don't know. We're going to learn this. And clients are like, yep, let's figure it out. And the other thing that does is it allows them to come to you and go, hey, I know I should know this, but and they'll just spill something. Cool. I admit I didn't know it. You admit we're good.
That's just being a damn adult and a human, right? Ultimately, that's what it is. But I talked about this a lot, and this is why I tell my clients too, is the second question, and I'm just going to focus on the second one, is I'm going to have your back. I'm going to figure these things out for you. Like that is what you're partially hiring me for, is things in life happen. Shit happens a lot. The fact is we're going to go figure it out, and you don't have to feel alone and lost in whatever's going on. And I believe that is where our industry is really shifting to with more firms like ours, is more of that, which is, I don't know, use a marketing term, holistic financial planning, whatever they're using nowadays. But I believe that's where we're moving to, because that's truly what people want. Yes, they want investments and they want returns, but None of that matters if they're freaking out because that foreign tax thing happened, or they don't know how to start this nonprofit or how to domesticate their business from Iowa to Florida. Like, those are the issues that we take care of. And that's like the value part. And this is what I wanted to talk about too, is there's a value in being hyper focused in a niche. I understand that. But how are you positioning your value in this industry, specifically with these people, when there is no stats, there is no game plan that you're building off of?
Yeah, I think to circle back just for a second, I think you and I have the same type of thing going on. We're very focused on who we serve. That's true. We serve different audience, but we're very focused. I found we tracked it, about a third of our introductory meetings end up in tears. And we're like, why? So I finally asked people, I'm like, what's going on? Like, and the answer they said was the first time they felt like they were heard and seen. And I'm like, there's nothing more powerful than that. Just, you know me, you get me, I get it. And to groups that have, are underrepresented, they're having issues in the, judgments, whatever, it almost doesn't matter what I do from a financial standpoint if I can understand who they are and understand structure. We do not advertise, oh, you're going to get more money out of this, or the percentage or the performance review. They don't care about that. They care about, I know you, I know people like you, and I can get it. And so we're looking at it as a company and saying, okay, how do we replicate this? How do we grow this? Because if you look at the US, there's about somewhere around 4.5 million child-free millionaires in the United States. We purposely target people with about 1 million to 1 to 5 million in assets. So we got 4 million folks that are our target. Our long-term goal, crazy goal, is to serve 1% of them. So that's 40,000-ish people. Now, for those that don't know, in the RIA world, if you serve 40,000 people, it makes you like 15th largest in the country or something like that. It makes you huge. But it's still only serving 1% of the audience that we know has this issue and we know is not being served well. Like at one point, like I look at that number and go, that's crazy. And then the other one, I'm like, oh my God, there's all these other people I can't help. And like, how do you do that? So that's why I spend half my time talking to financial people about child-free folks, and the other time talking about child-free folks about their finances. Like, you have to do a bit of both, because I really wish 100 other firms would start serving child-free folks. And that sounds weird, but I actually think it would help my business, honestly, because, I get to say I was the first and I made the process, all that. They're all copying. But like, there's 4 million. Like, it's not like we're not competing.
No, we're not. And that's industry-wide, really, but even more whittled down to talking about 1%. Like, people don't understand this, and I talk about it all the time. One singular planner, maybe with one staff, can, in my eyes, if they're doing planning correctly, maybe have 60, 100 tops clients. Mine is more 40 to 60, but I can see how people can range up to 60 to 100. You start doing that math, you got to be a pretty darn big firm just to do 40,000. And this is where our industry does it really poorly. We always try to compete. There are way too many people that need served than there are us and our capability currently.
Yep.
I don't even know the numbers. I'd have to look it up, but I'm thinking we probably have to at least 10x our CFPs to even make a dent in this situation.
Yep. So we use the number 80, but the reason we do is because every client gets 3 people. So they get a paraplanner, a child free wealth specialist who's like their point person, and then a lead planner who's kind of double checking. So it's not like you're doing it alone. You're probably right on the 40 to 60 if you're primary. So 80. Okay, so I need to find hundreds of planners. And by the way, they need to understand the child-free client. They need to understand the process. So I just posted for a associate planner, just filled it. And in the job posting, I put 2 questions. These are my screening questions. My first question is, why do you want to serve child-free folks? I don't care what your reasoning is. I just want to see a reasoning. The other one is, what do you want to learn? Now, I don't know. I probably had 30 or 40 applications. I interviewed like 6 people. Why? Because they were the only ones that answered the questions. Like,
oh, jeez.
And that's the requirement. They were CFP and answered the 2 questions. That was the entire. That was it. You get an interview if you check those 3 boxes. And so I'm looking at this, and good thing, interestingly, I had a lot of folks reach out and said, "Hey, I like the niche you're serving. I want to serve people like you." Like the niche you're in, how you're serving actually will also impact who you're hiring and the funnel of that. But back to your point about like we need financial planners. I don't need just financial planners. I need financial planners that can serve folks like we want to serve in the direction. Like I don't need people just to smile and dial and be selling products. We're not doing that. I need people that want to learn and want to serve our folks. And that makes it a challenge. I'm over here, that's the thing that's going to be the determinant of my company is can I onboard, train, get them in there and have them serve with the same quality, the same respect, the feeling heard, all that times, 40,000 clients. I got no clue if I'm going to be able to do that. I'm just being honest with it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Our current goals over the next 5 years, we want to get to 5,000 clients. And that's our, first step. I know how many planners I have to have. I know I have to structure, cool. I'm not worried about bringing in clients. That's the easy part. Because, if you Google child-free financial planning, the first page, 9 out of the 10 items is us in either press article. Like we already own, like that's the easy part. It's how do we serve people that otherwise wouldn't be getting help? It's not, hey, you and I are competing. No, like at all.
Yeah. That's and I'm so happy that you're attacking that. And I really hope others jump on and put it part of their practice, or at least come to you to learn. Because it's, again, obviously I represent the underserved as well, and one, but personally, but I do appreciate that a lot. So let's spin now. Okay, let's talk more about those that are, right? I'm a client or I'm in that world and I don't have any children and I feel all these things that people are saying. What are some things I should be doing? Can you give us a few tips, maybe some resources, something that they should be using to further their wealth journey?
Yeah. So we actually, new book coming out, The Child Free Guide to Life and Money. We've taken an approach and we say we want to simplify your finances so your life can be amazing. So we actually, with our clients, plan for their life first, then their finances. Great example is child-free folks. If you ask them, they'll come to me and say, "Hey, when can I retire?" And I'm like, "Do you want to?" They go, "No." Well, then why are you asking me when you can retire? Because they don't actually want to retire. They want to cut back on work. They want to, it's a different purposes. So what I do with all my clients, I start with, okay, what do you want your amazing life to look like? And often their answer is like, I don't know. So like child-free folks, we have what we call the child-free midlife crisis, which is when you hit your personal, professional, financial goals, and then you're like, now what? Now, if you're a parent, usually your goals go on to your kids, and Johnny's got to go to college. But we don't have that excuse. And I am calling it an excuse because like you have to address like a big issue, like what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want the next 40 years of your life to look like? Which changes finance. So, all right, we figure out what life they want to live. What they'll tell us is 95% of them want to die with zero. Okay, that's now changed your financial plan. If you want to die with zero, we need to figure out a plan for your long-term care. Our goal is by mid-40s to have something in place, either a money set aside or insurance policy or whatever it is. The other thing that changes there, this is the one that's been keeping me up at night for 2 years, is who's going to be your power of attorney or executor when you have next kid? Like, giant problem, okay? Like, and if you try to find solutions on it, there's not. We're hoping to have a solution out by the end of the year to do this. We're partnering with a trust company to do it. But like, if you're in California or Arizona, you can have a professional fiduciary help you. In Georgia, there's one attorney that'll do it, but that's it. Any other state, you're out of luck. Like, good luck. So we have to figure out that. We have to figure out estate planning. We have a program we call the 8 No Baby Steps that walks people through. We start out with no debt, simple stuff. But then it's like, it starts changing everything. So for example, owning a home. Well, for child-free folks, if you're going to move every 2 years, there's no reason to buy a house. And even if you're going to move every 5 years, still no reason. Like I sold my house, me and my wife rent. Not because we can't afford a house, but like I don't have to deal with it. Like, so it starts changing things. Life insurance, not a big deal for child-free folks. Disability is, and we also get into some interesting things. Our No Baby Step 7 is Plan for Parents, which is huge for our clients, which is not you're planning to have kids, but how do you take care of your parents? And what we're finding is we have 2 buckets. We have parents that are broke that you're going to have to like figure out their care. And we have parents that are super rich. There's nowhere in between. Like we're not finding I mean like 1% are in the middle, but like they're in the way extremes. And the only clients we take on that are parents right now regularly are parents of our child-free folks. And we'll go in and look at their parents' stuff. And we actually find out they're broker than we thought or richer than we thought. But like, what's your plan for that? Like, how do you do this? And how do you care for them and all? Because what happens is for our child-free folks, they go, well, you don't have kids, so you can take care of mom and dad. Like, it's just like, it's a sentence that it gets finished. So it becomes part of the plan. And what you're seeing is it's all of these things that change. And people look at financial planning like, oh, well, what's your investment? Like, look, investments, we follow simple, passive, long-term investments, nothing fancy, like set it, forget it. Somebody in my interview process asked me, like, how much time do you spend in the software? I'm like, 5% of my time. Like, the rest is all in like
Right.
your behaviors or ways of thinking. Like, we actually meet with our clients in the first year on a monthly basis. Our process is 77 steps, and it's all things that have changed. And it's like, all right, we just dig in one little piece at a time. And what tends to happen is once we get through their financial plan, they're like, cool, I'm safe. Now I want to do something completely different. And I'm like, all right, so we're going in a different direction. And that's just normal for our folks.
Isn't that normal for all of us, really, though? Like, I mean, not with kids, I'm saying, but like, as humans, like, isn't it normal for us as soon as we're like, oh, we're good? Oh, time to do something else.
Well, it is, but here's the difference. Because the way we say it is living a life of child-free wealth means you have time, money, and freedom to do what you enjoy. When you have ultimate flexibility, it's actually like analysis paralysis, like too many choices type routine.
Sure.
But my wife, okay, my wife and I, we embrace something called the garden and the rose, where one's providing support, one's growing. She's the rose right now. She had offered a job 1,200 miles away. We packed up the dogs and the cat, gone. Like, not a big deal. That's the type of change. Like, I mean, like, pick it up, gone. That you can't put in a regular financial plan. Like,
No, you can't. We're personally going through that right now. We have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, and we don't really love Iowa. Winters kind of suck. We want to go Denver, Phoenix, somewhere in there where our friends and some other family are. And that's what we're talking about too, is like, we have a window, probably the next 2 years. Otherwise, you're kind of locked in with school and sports and all of that. And and when you said analysis by paralysis, and it's like, that makes sense, because if we had the freedom to do whatever, then what do we do? Like, where do we go? We go anywhere. Let's just do this for a month and that for a month. I can understand that. I can track that.
Like, the editor for my book, actually, her and her dog stayed at a different Airbnb for a month every time for 17 states and just traveled the country. Like, and that's normal for my clients. Like, hey, I'd get in a meeting like, where are you today? Oh, I'm in Jackson Hole. Okay, cool. Like, and that's part of our clients.
Yeah.
And that is just, financial planning looks very linear. It's just not for our clients. And we got people in tech or whatever. Oh, I hit the IPO lottery. Great. Changes everything. Okay, now I'm going to move to another country. All right. Like, that's every day for us.
So this is a little off topic. So with this, I really can't consider it and call it financial planning, although by definition it is, whatever. Do you see this, what you're building and figuring out and doing for the child free, as part of something that like the rest of us might take into consideration in our planning?
Yeah. So I call what we do life and financial planning. And I was on another podcast, and the guy's got a couple kids. He's like, wait a minute. So what you're telling me is you want your clients to figure out what they want to be when they grow up and what their life is first before they figure out the finances. He says, we should do that for parents too. And I agree. But what happens is, for parents, there's a standard life script that says you do it this order, or this is the structure. And for us, we've kind of taken a hard right turn. And that's where it's like, okay, if you don't have the script, what do you do? Another example of this. So we're working on having a fiduciary you pay for your power of attorney executor. And I was on a podcast, and somebody said, every morning he wakes up thinking he killed his mother. And what it was he was the power of attorney for his mom. And he knew her wishes, but she wanted, the machine plug pulled, all that. But it still bothers him. He says, why would I put that burden on my kids? I was like, well, that's a good question. Like, I don't serve that audience, but like, he's like, if I could pay a professional to do that for me, then I don't have to put it on my kids. That'd be awesome. So I'm over here solving a solution for folks that have no other choice. They have no next of kin, but they're going, well, can I use that for others? And I'm like, yeah, you probably could, probably should, but that's not my group to deal with.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I tell all my clients that you have to have a third party. Don't do family. Don't put it on your kids. Have a professional who literally that's what they do. So you figured that out. Let me jump on because I've been doing it with a different firm of mine and fiduciary side of things, and I've been a trustee outside of my own firm just to handle that because it gets nasty with family, and it gets nasty when there's kids involved and all of that. So I'm definitely on board with figuring that out. That's for sure.
The financial part's easy.
Yeah.
It's the medical power of attorney that makes a mess.
Mhm.
Like, and by the way, my argument is I have to have somebody that's going to do all three. And the hard part with my clients is, the way I say is my wife and I are in a car crash. Who makes our financial decisions? Who makes our medical decisions? And who lets our dog out? It sounds stupid, but like these are this is
Yeah.
what matters.
Yeah.
And if we're traveling the country, how do they know I'm in Iowa right now? They're like, why are you in Iowa? I don't know. I just am. Like, and how do I make sure that, and the problem is the system is broken. Like the system just has no way to do this. And each state has its own thing. We actually hired a class of interns for the summer to actually look at this from a legal standpoint. And they were like, wow, this is a mess. Like,
Thanks. Yep, sure is.
yeah.
Oh, love breaking ground. What's next? Okay, so this is what you're attacking. You're hiring more and you're growing. You got a book coming out. What what is next for you? What is this thing that you believe outside of client growth, of course, that you're achieving this forward momentum? What is that for you?
Yeah. One of the things we're looking at right now is we're trying to improve the discussion around being child free. Let's just be honest. That like there's not a discussion in most areas. And one of the things we're looking to do is we're actually looking to partner with employers and say, okay, cool, we got this book coming out. Let's come out, do some talks. Let's talk about what it's like for your child free folks. And by the way, there's also issues with benefits and other, like there's a whole pile there. But employers are actually, they'll pay for people to come speak on. Number one issue is mental health, which makes sense. Number two is around DEI issues. But the child free issue is the one like, it's like a third rail. And after Roe got overturned, it got worse. I'm in the South. There's a lot of political issues. But we're out there really saying, okay, how do we do that? And we're going to do that really to build community. Because what we found is while there's millions and millions of child-free folks out there, there's not really community. I want to make like the AARP for child-free folks. Like I don't know what that is, but like, how do we all get together and like go on trips together and like hang out? And how do we find each other? I was at this summit this weekend for childless folks, and it was the first one I've ever been at. There was just shy of 100 people there, and it was just like, hey, they're all like me, and they're all having the good, bad, and ugly that comes with it. How do we build that community? And how do we do it in a sustainable way? The finances, the life, all that's actually easy. Like, how do we do the rest? And so we're using the book for that. We're publisher source books are owned by Penguin Random House. They think they'll sell, 10,000 copies next year or something like that. We're trying to say, okay, let's use that to start a conversation about this. And I do a lot of press, and same day, Wall Street Journal and Market Watch did a feature article on us, and Market Watch called it the best new thing in retirement. And I was like, okay, I'll take that, but it's not really new. Like, we've been around forever. Like, yeah. So how do we start having these conversations? And that's why I appreciate people like you, bringing me on and having the discussion, because in the child-free community, we talk to each other. Cool. But like, how do we have this big thing so that the next person that's going, hey, are we weird? We go, no, you're normal within the child-free community. You might be weird in the overall population, but within this group, you're our people. And how do we do that? And I don't know. I'm out there. Anyone that will bring me in to speak, I'm out there speaking. I'm out there on every podcast in the world, everything I can get to, just to get the word out there. And it's mixed. You'll see it when this comes out of the podcast. It's probably one of the higher engagement because people like get fired up about it either way. And it's like, how do we just get to the point where like, I live my life, you live yours. Like we're cool, and not judge and make it part of that.
I love that. I really do. And that's why we're going to have you part of the No BS Wealth community as well and our vetted partners, because the conversations need to be had, right? We need to be openly able to talk about one of these issues is yours, but also all the other ones in an open forum in a way that isn't attacking one way or another. Because ultimately, again, we're just humans. We're all good. We all just have our different paths. and some of our paths are very similar, and that's okay. I mean, hell, look at us. We're in the same industry where I have hair, you don't. You're white, I'm black.
Hey,
Like, look at look at all of this, and
yeah,
we're building the similar things, except for we're on the same team, and we're trying to do the same thing, and that is help others. And ultimately, that's where we want to go. So I really do appreciate you coming on. We're going to have you on again for our 12 Days of Giving series here in the wintertime when it comes to Christmas, because I believe you have a very amazing client story, and people need to hear it. And I want to make sure we do and just focus on that client story. But go ahead, name of your book again.
the Child Free Guide to Life and Money. Out for pre-sale now.
Pre-sale now. We'll have links. We'll do all that thing. You know how we do those things. But I really do appreciate it. Keep up the good fight, and we're here with you.
I appreciate you having and you are right. We are more similar than you think. We're just different flip sides of the same coin.
The preceding program was sponsored by Black Mammoth. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Black Mammoth. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Black Mammoth website, www.blackmammoth.com. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions and securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice due to various factors including changing market conditions. The information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up-to-date, Black Mammoth do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature and is provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results.